Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host Rob. I stream almost every day on Twitch talking about Warhammer, every Monday on the Age of Sigmar Stats Center with my co-host Owen Jackson. We look at event results from around the world and we deep dive trends and look at some of the good lists that we see play. I also do live coverage and commentate on the largest Age of Sigmar events in the world, and we run the Super Series, all over on the T-Sports Network. Hello, welcome to an exciting update for Age of Sigmar. Last week we had the FAQ, and now we've got the FAQ to the FAQ. Again, this is actually a really nice change to see from Games Workshop. What they've done is they've addressed the problems that they caused with their own FAQ last week. Yes, it would have been nice had they had the hindsight to not do that, but listening to the community and actually making some of those key changes is a great and positive step. Congratulations to Games Workshop. We'd love to see more of this, please. Now, again, just for people who might be new, who are tuning in to something about Age of Sigmar, when you get your rules for your armies, you normally get them in your battle tome. But they're not necessarily all updated, and you can find the updated rules on the Games Workshop website, Warhammer Community, which is their marketing website, and then find it in the FAQs. Okay, so what did they do last week, and what have they done this week? They've made basically a bunch of changes to changes they made last week, and they've done some clarity, which is great, and we've also had a very small minor balance patch, which is actually quite exciting. So the major problem that was caused by last week was stacking wards, and a ward save is something you do after an armor save. Unlike 40k where you take an armor save or a ward, in Age of Sigmar you take an armor save and then you take a ward save, which is effectively a damage prevention roll. The problem is some of them are called ward saves and some of them aren't. So last week they changed it, or it doesn't matter what they did last week. What they've basically done this week is they've clarified that anything that's a damage prevention roll or an after damage save roll is now a ward, which is amazing. It's great news for all of us because we don't have to have any contentious issues. There won't be any weird broken combinations. It's really, really good, and it was a major issue that they developed themselves last week and they fixed it this week, so good work on them. Again, just in case you happened to miss it last week, they changed how bodyguards worked, and they've kind of clarified it again here, which is really nice. And that's bodyguards can't be additional ward saves. What I mean by this is you can't have a character make a ward save and then try to pass those wounds off to a bodyguard unit. Let's say like Saurus Guard. You can't do that, and as of last week, and they've reconfirmed that this week. They've also confirmed that the bodyguard unit itself can't take a ward save. So what you can do is make a ward save on your character, or pass it off to a bodyguard unit. If you do pass it off to a bodyguard unit, the bodyguard unit then can't make a ward save itself. So the bodyguarding is classed as a ward. Another problem that they caused was piling in. Specifically, you were able to lock a unit in by making two other units equidistant, or two other models effectively equidistant from the unit that was trying to pile in. So it couldn't pile into either or, and therefore it was locked where it was. They've changed that now, and as the person doing the pile in, can choose which way you want to pile into the two different models that are equidistant from your models. So you get a really nice choice. So that's a great little change, because you were able to produce some negative play experiences from doing that, or some minutiae things. It's like a very small detail that might not come up, but it's nice to see it changed. Also, I'm just going to mention this one, otherwise the YouTube thugs are going to get me. There has been a change to mount traits. Now, it was already changed last week, so they effectively deleted our ability to take double metal crunchers, which is sad, or 5 metal crunchers, which was obviously brilliant. But you can't do that anymore. Sad face for destruction players. But that was last week's update. They also kind of changed some things around that they broke a little bit, and so they've now re-clarified it that enhancements count from your core battalions for mount traits, and they've just said you can't take the same ones twice. It's just a nice bit of clarity. If you are taking any mount traits, like if you're running Flesh Eater Courts or if you're playing Idoneth Deepkin, it's worth rereading it, but they fixed that, and that's a nice little change. Now, a huge problem, which was making a whole bunch of people bark and nearly made me leave the hobby, was the change to Wildwoods last week. Effectively, what they did last week was make it so that you could no longer teleport between Wildwoods. Now, they fixed that this week by removing that off of the new War Scroll. So this is our 6th update for Wildwoods. And you can now teleport between Wildwoods because you revert to the Allegiance ability. This is great because it was a huge problem for Sylvaneth, who really weren't in the best position anyway. So it's nice to see them be able to use one of their core Allegiance abilities with their faction terrain. So something that they also did for Sylvaneth, but haven't done for Nurgle and the Feculent Gnarlmaws, is change how you place terrain. So last week it said faction terrain could only be placed in your own territory. Now the Wildwoods have got that changed, so you're going to be able to set up Wildwoods like anywhere on the board when you summon them. That's written on their war scroll, but they've forgotten about the Feculent Gnarlmaw and Nurgle, and so rules as written, they're effectively only allowed to drop the Feculent Gnarlmaw in their own territory. They clearly haven't meant it, and there's a process. They just forgot about it, so just let people put Feculent Gnarlmaws anywhere, same as other faction terrain or summoned faction terrain. Imagine they're effectively Wildwoods. Alright, good job Games Workshop, you fixed all the problems you caused last week, and now they've decided to actually make some balance patches, which is quite nice. What we haven't seen, unfortunately, is a change to save stacking, and we're going to have a lot of 2-up armor save models in the game, maybe ignoring Rend 1, and that's sad. I would have liked to have seen that go away. However, 2 other changes have occurred, and those are to 2 endless spells. Chronomantic Cogs is a spell that you can cast, which, previous to the update, allowed any wizards within 6 inches to cast an additional spell. This was really good for Tzeentch summoning builds and also for Lumineth Realm Lords builds. But they've changed it now to only 1 wizard within 6 inches is able to cast an additional spell. This really, really reduces how effective it is, and you're probably going to see it from a pretty much auto-take in most lists to straight away out of most lists. The other change that they made was to Umbral Spell Portal. Now, Umbral Spell Portal is a spell that allows you to cast a spell from a wizard within an inch of it, through it, and measure the distance from the other end of the spell portal. In old wording, you were able to cast an AoE spell, so an area of effect spell, from each of the spell portal ends, because it's a model with 2 pieces. Now they've changed it so that you can only cast it from one end of the spell, which is a good change. Okay, excellent. Good. How do we feel about this? Really good. Some small FAQ patches on balance, specifically to Cogs and Spell Portal, and then a lot of just fixing the problems that they caused last week. Okay, great. How does the game shape up now? It's dominated by units and models with 2-up armor saves, ignoring Rend. That seems pretty dominant. Hero characters are very strong, not only because they're going to have great armor saves, but their ability to use heal, monstrous reactions, and a bunch of other stuff. So it puts us in a position that we were kind of at before the FAQ, but we've got some clarity, which is quite nice. I honestly think the game is in a really good space, specifically because I still think we're so early into the edition that you're able to really use those battle tactics to score maximum points. It does seem like having a monster or 2 monsters in your army is really, really good because you're going to be able to score a couple of additional points on battle tactics. And the stats seem to say that we aren't in a position where we have one mega dominant army, which is quite nice. Now, some of the problems that we are seeing, like save stacking and other stuff, probably in the future will cause the list to become more polarized. But at the moment, with the game so broad and also the game so new, and many of us still developing the skill sets to play the game at a high competitive level, the game's in a really solid place. It's really fun, it's very cinematic, the priority roll is obviously brilliant, as is using battle tactics and choosing them between at the beginning of each turn, because you have these kind of cinematic in-game moments. For me, as someone who plays the games and also does live coverage of the games, I think the game is in a really solid spot. There are some issues, foxes, save stacking, Marathi, a bunch of other stuff that I think that could be addressed, but really I think we're in a good spot. And I'm really excited to see, whenever we get the battle tomes, how the game is going to change at that point as well. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed tuning in. You can find me live most days on twitch.tv/TheHonestWargamer. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments and anything that you think about these updates, the FAQs, or any of those other things. And thanks for tuning in. See you guys soon. Bye.